Yeah, Cheta. Welcome back.
And welcome back, Waji, at the corporate MC. That's the corporate with a K. Welcome, Waji.
Good morning, guys. Everyone. Good morning, Lagos, and I hope everyone is having a fantastic 2020 so far.
Great to
Yes.
see you, Ajim. Welcome.
And of course, last but not the least, Divo Okore is back, the Akuman himself for 2020. Welcome. Good morning.
Cool 2020 with vision.
I'm telling you, well done.
Cool Amoteku.
Oh, wow. Okay. Join the conversation this morning by sending us messages on WhatsApp 0809 On Twitter, we are Smooth981FM.
Kindly use the hashtag freshly pressed 981 on YouTube. We're streaming live. YouTube is youtube.com/smooth 981FM Lagos.
Our first story, we'll start with you, Cheta. Cheta, this story is from the Punch newspaper. Amotekun starts on shaky grounds, they say. 3 governors absent from lunch, they say. The governors, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos, Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State, and the Osun counterpart, Boyega Oyetola. Just your thoughts on this story.
Um, so the Amotekun, I think, what does it mean in Yoruba? I think it means leopard.
Tiger. No, tiger.
Tiger. Is
Yes,
it
no,
leopard?
can't
That's
be.
what
It's
it is.
leopard.
Leopard is a
Tigers don't exist in this part of the world, so
but that's what it means. It means
leopard.
tiger.
Leopard. I'll take the word of Yoruba girl over you. It started yesterday, and remember that a few months ago, I think it was in July 1st, and then another meeting in September. The Dawn Commission, which is a group of the Southwest states, all met, including these the governors who were absent. And they agreed to set this up. It was in respect. It was sort of one of the responses to the murder of the daughter of the leading Yoruba politician in middle of last year, and so there was this agreement. Then, if about 2 weeks ago, the police and the army suddenly came out. This was after the Ekiti State Governor Fayemi said that the launch was going ahead on 9th of January. The police and the army came out and said that they were not going to cooperate with them. So this absence of the 3 governors, which has hogged the headlines, there are 2 ways to look at it. There's the geopolitical and there's the politicking. So let me focus on the geopolitical first before talking about the politicking, and bear with me. A lot of people, especially in the south of the country, have been clamoring for restructuring. This is it. Restructuring is not going to happen in Nigeria that all of us will gather to sit in a room and decide on the future that we want. Unfortunately, Nigerians have built a culture of kicking the can down the road and refusing to look at the problem till the thing blows up in our faces. So this is restructuring. The truth of the matter is that the federal government, the Nigerian police, the military, they have proven incapable and under-equipped and underfunded and all the insert word here, unable to face Nigeria's security problems head on. So increasingly, it's going to turn to subnational units, most likely along regional lines and not among the 6 geopolitical zones. Those are artificial zones. It's going to be more southwest. At some point, Edo will join in. The rest of the southeast and south-south, some parts of the middle belt. You will see different groupings, but eventually they will come together in their own ways to try to take care of security problems within their regions. Now, unfortunately, the federal government in Nigeria tends to behave like a dog in the manger. So rather than look at these practical solutions, the federal government is going to keep trying to sabotage it. And people will keep bringing up comparisons, such as the fact that this same army and police cooperated with the civilian joint task force in the northeast. Now, why are they unable to cooperate with the Amotekun? Now, you have a situation where in the past, we have had regional-based security outfits. In the southwest, we had OPC. In the southeast, we had Bakassi boys. And to some extent, even though in many cases they were arbitrary and they didn't follow due process, they were effective.
Yes.
And people have memories of those. So more and more, as the security situation deteriorates, because when you look at unemployment, is a huge security issue. As it deteriorates, more of this will come up. So now that's looking at the geopolitical, that we're going to see more of this. This is the restructuring or it's an example of the restructuring that we've been talking about. The second part is the politicking. If you note, the governors who attended are governors who don't really have any favors to ask of the villa, of Asu Villa. Fayemi is a second-term governor. He's not coming back. Akere Dolu is having a sort of godfather kind of brouhaha, not as wide as blown up as the one in neighboring Edo State, but it's there. And then Makinde, of course, is PDP. While the guys who chose not to attend, Sanwo-Olu, Dapo Abiodun, and then Gbenga, Oyetola, they're not that important.
Thanks, Cheta. Your excellencies. Thank you.
Are they excellence?
They are governors.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Anyway, the fact that they didn't choose to attend, it's just a reflection of the fact that ultimately they are still beholden to the villa one way or the other. For Oyetola and Sanwo-Olu, there's the fact that they are beholden to the Jagaban, who is interested in something from the villa. For Dapo Abiodun, he is also beholden to the villa in one way or the other. So it's just their way of not wanting to displease Asu Rock. But that's impractical. The fact of the matter is that more subnational units, not just in security, but in so many other things, more subnational units taking over for function in federal government is here to stay. It's a reality. We should live with it.
All right, so Comrade Henry says the newly launched Southwestern Security Outfit is aimed at fighting a common enemy and subversive elements within the region. However, its operatives are to be paid the minimum wage salary structures against the 13,500 naira earlier rumored. Thanks for that, comrade. Then, just as in way of education, so that there is no confusion, Ekun means tiger, Kineu means lion, Kolokolo means fox, and Amotekun is leopard. That's from Mimi from Yaba.
Thank you, Mimi. We'll move on very quickly to the next story.
Get it. Ask your listeners.
1 second, please. Minimum wage, we have no time. All right, we need to run through this. Premium Times has this report. Minimum wage, labor union issues, new deadline to state governors is still in contention. A few states have not complied with this. Take us through this, Devo, and just outline what next steps they have said, because they've given a deadline for January 31, mobilizing all the states to start preparing for strike.
Well, this was bound to happen, and I don't think we're going to go too far from this, because what is clear is that states are broke, and you cannot just sign on something that you can't even deliver. Currently, the statistics is that the fact that 6 have started implementation, 15 are negotiating with the labor unions, while the other 15 are yet to negotiate or even commence. And the labor union has said that anyone that does not comply by the 31st of January, that's this month, they will proceed on industrial action. So notices have been given to state chapters to gear up against that. Now, what is at stake here? Since the president passed the new wage structure that was in April 18th last year, and then a consequential adjustment was agreed on in October, states are expected to also do likewise. And that's from level, I think they've taken care of level 1 to 7, but
yes,
from 8 to 17, that's where the little lacuna lies, so that there'll be some harmonization based on the increase. Now,
consequential
yes, consequential adjustments. And the governors themselves have gone from one pillar to post, creating reasons why this is not possible. And as we know, some have pitched themselves against the federal government, saying that they need a larger share of the usual derivation so that they can pay for this difference. But I think NLC, as I've always said, they need to get cracking in terms of it. You don't just answer every issue with a strike. There are some fundamental issues which I had expected they would have brought up opportunities for, in terms of working with their state governments to look at ways to create IGR. The labor union itself is an engine of economic means of economic productivity. Two, they can take on the issue of restructuring in terms of this confederation, which even the governors are pushing for. They can look at right sizing. Many of the state governments have more than they can even cope with. So at the end of the day, who's going to be paid? Obviously, some people are going to be left out. Finally, state governments are broke. The state governors need to start also taking actions to see how they can get themselves in a position whereby they can start paying or they can start carrying their weights.
Yes.
It's
Devo,
a-
sorry, let me cut you short there and ask you
Mhm.
this. I mean, you say state governments are broke. I look at the states that are yet to agree. I
Mm.
know that Rivers is here, and the Rivers and Lagos, they receive the most allocation from the federal government. So how is it that they don't have money to pay for this?
There are even other 4 states included there. Bayelsa is there as well.
Enugu is there, Bayelsa, yes, Ogun, Niger, Niger, Oyo,
These are
Sokoto.
expected rich states. Now, what I would have thought that NLC would have cooked up or looked at a way to hold their own governors to ransom in terms of how come with all the revenues that you're getting, that with our little states, because I don't have the numbers here to show the number of the population of these states, the size of their civil service. How come with this huge revenues you're not able
Huge
to
revenues.
yes
Really.
you're not able to meet up with your statements,
I
but
think we should get one thing.
it
Revenues
is-
are not huge.
yes, but they do get allocations. What's the size of their, for example, Bayelsa, what's the size of their civil service?
Even Cross River.
So how come they're not able to meet up? So these are questions
Cross
which I
River, for
expect.
example, has
NLC to raise.
5,000 political appointees. Where would they get the money to
Yes,
pay all of them from? See,
you make my
the truth
point.
of the matter is,
How come they have 5,000 for a state of that size?
because the
With-
civil service for years, and this is pretty much across board in the country, but especially it's really bad, particularly bad in the Niger Delta. The civil service for years has been used to settle political appointments. So the moment somebody gets in, he just appoints a whole swath of people into the civil service. They have jobs suddenly. So the truth is that despite all the so-called big revenue that they have, they simply can't pay.
All right, thank you.
Emeka from Ajah sent in a message on WhatsApp. Thank you very much, Divo. He said state civil service is overbloated. NLC should force some members to leave the service conditionally, i.e., state facilities facilitates loans for disengaged staff to start up something.
All right, Chibuzo from Yaba says, I hope this Southwest security outfit has nice structures. This could still turn out to be a great muster in the future, which governors would use.
All right, Waji, let's move on to this next story from the Punch newspaper. The National Universities Commission has decided to phase out, not phase out completely, but unbundle mass communication as a degree in Nigerian universities. They've broken it down into parts: media studies, public relations studies, cinematography, and others. Please take us through this story.
I mean, what I don't understand is why it's taking so long for this particular degree to have been unbundled. This is something that universities globally did. I know when I was in school, which is quite some time ago, at least over 2 decades ago, where you now had at that particular time. At that particular time, you had what the unbundling was into RTF, is what they call it, which was radio, TV, and film. And ever since then, it's evolved into broadcast journalism, digital media, social media management, data analytics, and media, and things of that nature. And the reason why is because the communications industry has become so specialized that you can't just necessarily have a mass communication degree and go look for a job. You have to have some specialization, because there are also offshoot industries that now recruit that specific skill set for you to now begin to have a job. So if somebody has a mass communication degree and they come to work at a radio station, what are they going to be doing exactly? There has to be a specialization. Are they going to be in the backroom engineering? Are they going to be in technical? Are they going to be in sound? Are they going to be on air personality? So there has to be a specialization within that particular industry. So I like the fact that it has been unbundled. I'm not a particular fan of what they have suggested, though, with regards to the unbundling, which has to do with things like media studies. What does that mean? Public relations, I have no idea what that means. So it's we need to have more things that are current to the times now. And when you look at these things, Valentine, there's nothing there on social media. There's nothing there on digital. So it's still a very archaic aspect that you're now trying to put a solution towards. I appreciate, I appreciate the unbundling, but can it be more applicable to the world that we're in now, so you can prepare students for the future so that they can actually go into industries and begin to have careers that offshoot into better things?
Another worry for me here is just to find out if there are any moves that will go side by side with this new implementation or unbundling of those courses to provide for tools or materials for these studies, because we know how archaic some of the repository.
Well, that's on a university basis.
Yes.
So I think that is not the job of the NUC. I think it's on the individual university basis, and that university now needs to go to get the relevant grants and raise money to begin to have those systems and equipment. So that's not the job of the NUC.
Thank you.
Each university should take responsibility for that.
Thank you very much, Waji. Our next story is coming to you, Divo. Buhari meets ASU, insists on compliance with IPIS. We know the this has been a conversation that's been going on back and forth. ASU is just headstrong, saying no, APIS is not going to work for them. They're not going to comply. But the federal government has the standpoint that they've saved 250 billion naira as of October 2019 by this implementation. Your thoughts, please.
Yes, the Chronicles of IPeace. Now,
As integrated personnel and information
yes.
system.
Now, there's not really much a story here. It's just a lingering brouhaha between ASU and the FG based on this new technological upgrade of government. Now, IPeace objective is to streamline payroll. Simple. It's done already in the private sector. The federal government is taking it on board to ensure that they can track and ensure that everything is one point. And that's simply the federal government engaged in technology. So we give the federal government commendation for that. However, ASU has been haggling over their autonomy or how the IPeace integration will scatter or scuffle their own mode of payments in terms of visiting professors, what do you call it, when they go on from one university to another, sabbatical, etc. All the various peculiarities that come with the academic world. However, I really don't see why ASU has kept it on for this long. Does it require a visit to the president? This technology can capture the peculiarities of ASU. Why? For example, if you remember during the telecom days when they mentioned that if you have your number, if you're switching to another network, you have to change your number. What was introduced was what they refer to as portability. It comes with that technology, meaning you can keep your number and be on different networks. That's what is I'm referring to what can be done within IPeace. It's nothing strange. It's just a modification of the application to suit or tailored for ASU. Nothing more. Secondly, Facebook. When Facebook first started, we had text, then they added image, they added video, they added streaming, they keep upgrading to ensure that they meet the differences required. That is the same thing that IPeace can do for ASU. So what is the fight about? Is it that the ASU have gone deaf and dumb all of a sudden, that they don't understand this? I don't understand. Is there more to it? Is there something hidden that we don't know about?
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nico sent in a message, says, well, look at Kitty State's still reacting to the labor union issue with the state government. It says, well, Kitty State, where the governor has taken steps to right size by sacking people. Yet the TUC and labor unions are threatening to strike and plan showdowns with that government. What do we really want in this country?
Ekiti Action Government.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next one. Cheta, come to you for this. Federal government prohibits exclusivity rights in sports broadcasting. Amidst a number of reforms, the spokesperson or the special assistant to the president's media, but from the office of the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Segun Adeyemi, made this statement available, saying that the federal government will prohibit exclusive rights to sport, broadcasting. Please break this down for us, Cheta.
Is there anything to break down? These are kind of stories that make me wonder why I came back from holiday. I should just I mean, this is ridiculous.
No, before you analyze, please, I'd like you to just explain.
Basically, what they're saying
I'm
is
sorry,
that
okay, go on.
is that companies like MultiChoice, DSTV, as we all know them. Yeah, yes, I am not prohibited from mentioning it because they are integral to the story. Companies like that who pay a lot of money, as in bucket loads of money, for the rights to broadcast things that we all know and love. Okay, I'm not a fan of the EPL, but Champions League I did there, Serie A I did there.
Yes.
They will pay it, they will pay the money, and then they will bring it to Nigeria and they will have to share with NTA and the rest of them. I mean, it's ridiculous. And when I say that the Buhari government is anti-business, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about.
Why will you clarify? Sorry, just to clarify. So if they're mandated to share, would it be at a fee, or that they'll pay the money and just have to share? So would they be making profit?
Because can I make a dictionary so I will see the meaning of the word share? Share. There's a difference between sublets and share. Share means share.
So they just have to share. That's
So to your point, Sky Sports in the UK, for example, they have the exclusivity for the EPL. So what now begins to happen is that you have other networks like BT Sport and other people like that who pay Sky Sports a particular fee to now show particular games.
Now that's not sharing.
And that's not sharing, because what happens is that you cannot the government cannot interfere in Sky Sports' bid to the English Premier League
Yes.
in terms of exclusivity rights, because
Thank
that's
you.
the Cheddar point about anti-business.
But they have
Thank
the
you
freedom
very
to
much.
lease.
Now
No. So what government has done is encourage Sky Sports to be able to allow other operators
people.
to show, is that to now give it at a fee. So Sky Sports still makes some money, and everybody's happy at the end of the day.
Thank you very much.
What's
Thank-
happening in
Now-
Nigeria is the complete opposite of
Now
that.
that Waji has finished being rational, let me be irrational.
All right, Cheta, go on.
Why will you compel a party to share something that is rightly called rights
Yeah.
that
That
they
you
paid
pay
for?
for.
And then you will say that you know, that after you have finished paying, you'll come and share with somebody. What kind of nonsense is that? Anyway, this is the way this thing will end. It's one of two ways it will end. Either some point within the next few days, they will realize just how ridiculous this thing makes them look, and then they will come out and deny what they have said and what we all saw them saying. After all, they've done that before. Or they will stick by their guns, and then we will see in the next few months, by the time this current EPL season ends, and
Price goes up.
that's the price goes up. One. The DSTV will carry their kaya and go. They will stop broadcasting in Nigeria. No, I was saying DSTV won't leave, but they will stop sending the signals in, because did you read the text of their press release yesterday? If you don't share, you cannot broadcast into Nigeria.
All right.
So they will stop broadcasting into Nigeria, and then all of you will hit the streets and say, where's my Manchester United versus Liverpool? Oh, sorry, Manchester United is a rubbish club nowadays. Where's my Manchester City
Don't let them
versus
come for
Liverpool?
you, please, Cheta.
I did here with my full chest.
All right, thank you.
Yinko
very
sends a
much.
message here reacting to the same story. Say, hello guys, please kindly show this to Cheta. That's a link. I'll show it to you, Cheta, after the show. Say, even in their home country, multi-choice is facing the same legal battle.
That's all.
Very interesting.
What does that have to do with us?
You see, this is the problem.
I don't understand.
Nigerians don't see. It's the same thing that will happen. It's the same outcome. The EPL will stop giving them the rights. End of story. And then they will sue people, the EPL, in places they can enforce. And you know the beauty of this thing, or if I don't know if it's beauty or ugliness or whatever, is that you can't even operate at that level without having a lot of your money domiciled abroad. So by the time they start pirating these signals, because that's what it is, piracy. This is intellectual property. We're entering into the field of intellectual property rights now. And I wish Oji was here to be able to explain it better to us. By the time they enter into, they will freeze their accounts there.
Lukman from Bogada wants you to take it easy on Man U though. But he says the sports rights news is funny. If you mandate them to share, it means that the provider will need to pay more, as they will need to
That's what I
get
said. It's
more than
gonna-
one
yeah,
provider
that's my
in their
point.
homes,
Yeah.
thereby making paying more to watch.
Very quickly, and that was the point I was trying to make. Multi-choice will not move out. What they'll do is that they will double those subscription rates to make up for what the government is forcing them to do. That's how I see it.
And then
Thank
the
you
government
very
will come and say we're pro people, and then they will try to force them to
reduce the price.
It's a script. We know how this thing will play out.
And
Well,
then
in the coming
Ade
days-
says, sorry, very quickly says, let's use say something like Big Brother. So I come up with a show like that, and I can get real money from one party and record my investments easy, and now have to be going to broadcast houses and begging them to take my show
Jokes.
to share.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to our next one very quickly. Aviation sector in Nigeria, Waji. Airlines investigate price fixing at Lagos Airport. This is a newspaper report. In recent times, we've complained about the fee, the price of airline tickets, particularly domestic airlines, and how much it's gone up in the few months. But we see here that part of that is due to what we call price fixing. Please explain this to us.
No, it's not necessarily price fixing, because you have to go to the root of the issue. The root of the issue is the book and hold system.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the book and hold system in a poverty mentality stricken nation is what now begins to happen, where people take advantage of the ease of doing business. So if you want to book for a ticket and maybe you don't have the money right now, they give you a 24-hour grace period so that you can book that ticket and then pay in a few hours, whatever the case may be, so that you lock into that particular price. The issue is, in a country like Nigeria, you have a lot of individuals who will go and book 40 places because all you need is just generic information as name, gender, age, and not age, but just things like that.
Yeah.
And what they do is that they literally hold the tickets. So when you go online, right, to now, or go through any particular route to pay for a particular ticket, you find out that it's fully booked.
Yeah.
And what that does, especially if you go to the airport, you're now at the mercy of these particular touts who call themselves agents, who now say that they have tickets for you and sell it at exorbitant prices. Now, there are a lot of back and forth arguments to say that the airlines do it against each other to more or less now force people to come to a particular airline, whatever the case may be. I don't know how you can actually clamp down on this unless you get to the nitty-gritty of the book and hold system itself, because that's where the problem is. As long as people have access to be able to book tickets, you're you're always going to have nefarious activities in that particular space. So maybe what you can do is reduce the time of the book and hold to say, okay, fine, you have 30 minutes, like hotels .com.ng and all this place to say you have 30 minutes to book for this ticket, maximum 1 hour. So that way you reduce how people now begin to take advantage of that system. But the longer you allow the book and hold system to take place is when you now allow opportunities. So that there's not really much you can do because that is the root of the issue, is the book and hold system.
Thank you very much, Eddie.
We have messages on Twitter. Modupa says that, to be fair, they did mention the payment of commercially viable fees. Reacting to one of the stories. Now, Chamberlain says the Nigerian Customs has no choice but to meet their targets. After all, the border closure has a positive effect of that. We need more government agencies giving positive results. 2020 must be a pragmatic year.
All right, let's go to that particular story. We've actually posted a picture of the headline so people will respond.
Okay, so
to
fans of customs are now coming to analyze.
All right, New Telegraph. Customs generate 1.34 trillion naira, exceeds targets by 30.2%. Cheta, please take us to this.
Foul. Forget. This is how the FIRS was coming to tell us that they are posting record revenues and all of that, and then what's his name? Abakari now wrote a love letter to Tunde Fowler and said, "Guy, you have failed to meet your targets for so and so years." Issa Fontua, who is one of those unappointed mandarins in this government, gave a very interesting interview on Arise TV a few weeks ago. I think it was a week and a half ago, and he implied that customs has been failing to meet their revenue targets. I would listen to Anissa Fontua, not Hamid Dadi, who is interested in keeping his job. Now, the key thing here is we're running an anomaly where customs is supposed to be a revenue generating agency. It really should not be. Its primary function is to secure our borders. Just yesterday, Business Day did an exclusive of how illegal immigrants are essentially paying a lot of money to immigrations and walking through the borders in the Northwest. The Nigerian state has this really unhappy habit of turning things on its head. In most countries, the first priority of customs is border security. But here we measure customs by how much they generate, by how much revenue they generate. The security forces of security agencies of most countries are preoccupied with citizen and territorial integrity. But here, their job is to extort. And in doing that extortion, they make business hard for people to do. And then we turn around and say ease of business, ease of business. Do you know how many people starting from the gate the other day, from the airport gate, asked me for money? One of them even asked my son for his Pringles. That thing was disgusting. And then they will come and tell us that they are generating revenue. And then later we'll see letter that says you haven't met your targets.
All right, thank you. Very quickly, talking about airport, what happens? Airport protocols. We have the next headline from Guardian. Tougher screening awaits Nigerian travelers over and face of Mwaji. Very quickly, please get into this.
Yeah, the headline is very misleading because that's not what the article is about. The article is more or less talking about just being secure in the airspace and how you're going to have to be inconvenienced with flights that now go to those particular routes that traditionally fly over Iraq and Iran. Is that correct? Not Iran and Iraq. So better. Thank you. So basically, you're going to have to go through longer flight periods. You have airlines like Lufthansa and all these other airlines telling you that they're going to have to add 50 to 90 minutes. So that's what the article is about. So it's more or less the inconvenience that some Nigerians will face. In addition to that, is also talking about how we just need to be careful because there are groups, especially in Abuja and other places, who came out to show solidarity with this anti-US sentiment. So it's just about Nigerians being wary, especially if you go for visa interviews. I know recently we've experienced a lot of challenges with renewing visas and stricter regulations. But my point remains that, look, you just have to make sure that, because there's still people who go and get their visas every single day. So people are not getting denied because of, environmental reasons or cultural reasons. No, people are getting denied for the same reasons they were getting denied before these issues. So if you have your documentations properly and you have legitimate reasons to travel, then that's a legitimate conversation that will happen with you and the consular officer. So I think people should just not get too carried away and swept up in these particular sentiments to say that there's going to be a blockade on visa allocations and things like that. No, you just calm down and just go through the process.
I saw somewhere yesterday, I don't know how true that is, that they reduced, or rather they canceled the whole 2 years visa, whatever,
It's not true.
Nigerians. It's not true. Okay, so that's not true. Thank you very much. We have messages on YouTube. Martin Tokeke Omeke, thank you so much for joining us from India. Isaac Emenlugwe says, sorry for that last one. He said, like I'll say, APC is good. It will curb lecturers from getting the salaries from different schools. But what happened to GIF MIS? I work for one of the organizations that are exempt from the IPIS. And thank you to Isaac. Thank you to everybody who sent in messages, even on WhatsApp. We apologize for not being able to go through the messages. Special thanks to you, Devo Korea, for stepping in this morning for your analysis on Freshly Press 981. Catch him on Twitter at Devo Korea. Chata is at Checkster. Waji is at The Corporate MC. In 15 minutes, we talk sports inside of the locker room here on Smooth 98.1.
The headlines.